America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. So, we have a motion for resolution to hold a closed meeting. Motion. Second. Motion, got a second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Public comment. Okay. Consent items. Do you have a motion to approve the consent items? So move. Second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Discussion items. Audit report. You guys want to sign in? You want us to sign in?
Sounds like Connor.
Go ahead. Want to, or?
Those guys are here for you.
Are they? Ready to make it right?
Don't make the auditors.
Well, that's my job.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to make people nervous.
Yeah, you do.
You ready to roll? Okay. All right. I'm Craig Copenhagen. We'll just run through kind of the audit results. The pictures that we'll go through are in the thinner book, kind of in about the middle. What's my budget for tonight? Looks like we got a busy agenda.
As quickly as you can go, as thoroughly as possible.
Okay. All right. Let's get the next slide. You guys have a clicker. All right. So these first two slides here will be pretty brief. We issued a clean opinion on the audit, so that means we're comfortable with numbers, and we're able to find support for everything that we sampled and tested. We had no findings, so none on internal controls. On the next slide, we had no findings on statutory compliance, so clean bill of health there. We'll hit a few numbers here. First few slides here are going to be different slices of fund balance, which means resources carried forward into the year that you're in now. So the first one, general fund, unrestricted fund balance, is kind of your discretionary fund balance, your residual, where you have control over how much you use, for what purpose, when, or not. So that's the discretion you have. Just under $1.6 million and 7.4% of expenditures is what that equates to. Here, the main thing you pulled out of there was science room capital projects that are not covered by LTFM. We'll see that in a minute. This is kind of classroom restricted type fund balances, and don't be too alarmed. The scale on the left there is kind of narrow, so it really didn't drop as much as what it looks there. But basically what you did is put some medical assistance and basic skills dollars to use in 2019, so you drew that down just about $20,000 is all. Operating capital, fund balance, pretty much you're maintaining this one. So basically the funding that comes in, you utilize it during the year, but generally have carried this fund balance, maintain it at that level and carry it forward. So the main thing running through here are technology purchases and online school hardware rental. This is your LTFM dollars, and the comment back from the unrestricted slide, spending some capital dollars on the science room there. Basically, you can fit those into the LTFM tranche here, so consequently LTFM stayed pretty stable. Food service. Food service here, the pupil count was down a little bit. The meal count consequently then was also a decrease, so really what you have is a kind of driving this is a decrease in the top line revenues. So I think just kind of working with Cocker a little bit in the year that you're in and kind of managing expenses, hopefully we can level that out. Community service, put some money back into the program by expanding School Readiness Plus program. So utilized a little bit of that fund balance in 2019. Next one is the capital project fund balance. So this is your bond project. This was the big building project, remodeling renovation project. So there's a little bit of balance left in there in 2018. You used that during 2019, and now the bond proceeds are used up. So kind of according to the purpose for what they were issued for. Debt service fund balance, this one is on the uptick here, and the reason being is you have levy dollars coming in to fund the 2016 bond payments, so that's what really the transition from 2017 to 19 is. General fund, this is looking at, this is going to be kind of your traditional K-12 plus the online school. So all inclusive, 21 million in revenues, with the online included. The online school draws in state aid funding, but not levy dollars. So consequently, your pie chart here looks about 90% state sources rather than high 70% is what you're usually used to seeing. The expenditure side, so this is including the online school again, but expenditures 21.3 million. And what did we spend money on? About 56% to salaries and benefits, about 18% to purchase services, which includes like your software licensing for the online school. And kind of the where is the next slide. So if you add up the slices of the pie that deal with either kind of direct instruction or instructional and pupil support, about 90% of your dollars going back into instructional setting. This is just looking at the pupil count, including online. So just over 1,900 students. We're going to take that number and divide it into a couple line items off of your financials next. First one is district and school administration. So with all of those online students, you're able to spread those administration dollars over a wider body or wider number of students. So kind of how these graphs work is the blue bars are all inclusive of the online school here at Houston. The red bar is districts in the state between 1,000 and 2,000 students, and then the green bar is all districts in the state. So you can kind of see what having that additional enrollment and spreading those administrative costs do when you include the online students. Regular instruction, this includes kind of software licensing as well for the online. So the main thing here is the fees and tuition you charge for online is covering the cost of the additional online licensing and things like that. Special education, here you're doing a nice job here, kind of maintaining and containing special education costs as much as you can. In 2019, you added a speech pathologist and 4 teachers to the online program, but still comparatively less compared to other districts in the state. The instructional support for 2019 added a dean of students here, so that increased cost a little bit, but this is kind of basically your library and media center staff development type costs. Next slide shows then kind of shifting gears. This is just your K-12 only, so not including online programming and student counts. So 413 in the K-12 district. And we'll do kind of the same math here over the next couple slides. So regular instruction, this is the main classroom instruction for K-12, about $600 to $800 per student going into the classroom. Next slide is vocational. This is business education and industrial tech, and don't be too alarmed with the 2019 bar there. Basically, a small decrease in the number of students pretty much equates or causes this difference here. So if I have the same student count as last year, I think it was like 382 back. So get a few students back and it smooths that right out. Pupil support was adding a social worker. So this is school nurse, counselor, and social worker for 2019. Sites and buildings is the next category. So this is kind of your maintenance dollars, kind of utilities, maintenance kind of runs through here. A little bit of asbestos removal in 2019 that came through. So that's what kind of made that a little bit higher than the previous year. Food service we kind of talked about, but basically the issue with the food service was more the top line revenues can contain the cost a little bit. We should be able to level that out. And I think transportation, I think I'll just touch on transportation and probably stop there. So transportation, comparing favorably here with other districts, costs actually decreased a little bit, so fuel costs were better. You know, and you're owning your fleet, so that helps a little bit as well. Transportation costs, doing a good job kind of managing that. So I think in the interest of your time, I'm going to stop there. If there's questions, certainly we can entertain some questions, but otherwise I'll turn the meeting back to you.
Anybody have any questions?
In looking through the audit, is there anything you feel the board needs to pay particular attention to? Is there anything that,
Are there red flags?
yes,
I know you've had some delinquencies in your student meals. I don't know if there's a really magical solution to that, or a popular solution, but if you could get the collection raised up a little bit, I think that would help your food service as well. And then kind of looking at the costs.
Excuse me, is that kind of a statewide trend?
It's been a little bit of a, it's been a little bit of an issue. I think really your question is, about the only way you can kind of eliminate that or rectify it is probably with some assistance from the general fund. That's where I think you got to make a decision.
just so your audience knows, we have never taken a hot lunch away from a student.
Yep.
Okay, any questions? Okay, appreciate your time, all right?
And we're just getting them, so if there are questions that come up, I'll zip you an email and I can have those answers at the next board meeting so they can be very public.
Okay, very good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, MNBA, DCA pathway operating expansion.
It's this one, right? The thinner one. This is separate, but it's a little different from. You had a question. You're welcome. Well, thank you for having us tonight. We wanted to just do a quick board update for you and a conversation around some recommendations we're looking for as we move ahead with DCA. We had an opportunity to talk in the subcommittee more in detail about it, so if there are other questions, there'll be some time at the end you can ask them. But again, wanting to come back, super excited for DCA and what it has to offer the students at MNDA. We are the keeping it in perspective, that innovative online program that combines traditional high school academics with industry-relevant certificates. So we're embedding into the fabric of how we do high school 9-12, so that we're looking at connecting learning to real-life experiences and really setting ourselves apart as an online school in the state. So of the 34 online schools, we are the one that is really stepping into this world of CTE and pathway work, similar to what many of our brick and mortar schools are doing, but really connecting in and providing opportunities for students. When we look at the data, so we launched in the fall. I came on board in May. We launched students into our pathways in September at the beginning of the school year. And as we've been trending and watching enrollment throughout this year, the exciting thing is we're increasing enrollment every enrollment period. So in September, we started with a group. We had an increase in students in DCA in October. We had another increase at second quarter. And then we are anticipating another increase of students coming into DCA with the new semester in January. We have currently about 345 students that are in DCA. Of those, the breakdown is within the two pathways we currently have, Health and Human Services and Business. And then we do have a certain group of students that are sitting in an undecided pathway. And that is part of what the data is showing us is they remain, and they really remain due to that kind of limited number of pathways that we have. We've done some informal survey data around career exploration with students, and with that, we really believe that by adding additional pathways, that we'll be able to work down that group of undecided students and find pathways that they're able to connect with and engage in. So at this time, we're asking you guys to consider and support the additional pathways. One of information technology, specifically we'd be looking at cybersecurity, programming and or networking, and then web design and communications, as well as manufacturing and the trades, specifically in collaboration with the local 49 union to look at a heavy machine operations pre-apprenticeship program. Within the information technology, we've tried to really look into the different sub-pathways within that, and there's more information in your packet. You guys can peruse through it, so I'm not going to go through the bullet points on it. But with cybersecurity, the networking, programming, and then the web design and communication really offers a nice selection of pathway options for students. So some within, systems and management, and then moving into that creative side with web design. So again, you can look at those more in depth. And then within manufacturing and trades, specifically again, that heavy machine operations pre-apprenticeship program. The exciting thing about this is within partnership with the local 49 union, we know that we have other school districts across the state that are asking for this opportunity for their students. And so we know that we will be able to bring in a selection of students, part-time students, in order to partner with us, because those school districts are not in a position to offer this on their own. And so wanting to find a school district that is offering this and that they can partner their kids in with. Students in this pathway specifically, for example, could graduate as a senior with an associate's degree and step straight into an apprenticeship, which wouldn't be possible for them without having this opportunity for them. So when we look at why new pathways, the question was brought up earlier, should we just still focus on those two and stay where we're at? Are we ready to do this? And what we know is the pathways that we're looking at, we feel very confident that this is the time. We can implement with a lot of fidelity. It allows our students those options. Both of the recommended pathways that we're asking you to consider fall within the top pathways of all K-12 schools across the nation. So K-12 just recently sent out data around where students are enrolled, in which pathways and the numbers of enrollments, and that breakdown. So the ones within IT as well as the operating engineers program fall within the top half of the highest enrolled pathways of all students. So we're sitting in a really good spot, of interest for students. It will again create immediate and more diverse selections for students. they're highly marketable, both for our returning students. So we're looking at interest when we're looking at our informal survey data from our students. We know that we're connecting to interest of them, as well as being a way for us to increase marketing to new students. So it gives us that opportunity to come and say, not just business and health and human services, but now we're looking at IT as well as this. So much broader span for them. It builds upon the current pathways that we have. So we talked a bit earlier about, how the alignment, let's say, between IT and business can come together. So students can really, work within those, they align well, and they offer a nice support of both academic and hands-on learning for kids. And the other thing is it really meets the demands, both of student interest, but also workforce needs across our state. And what I have found in talking with other DCA programs is that when we can marry those two, that's the best situation. So we want to not just go off of demands in workforce without considering students, but we want to also consider student interest with that as we're moving along. This was super quick, just an overview for you. You can look even more, but really what we are asking for then is the addition of 2 pathways going into the fall. We feel timing right now, if this would move forward and could be approved at the next meeting, that we are in a space where we can just jump right in regards to connecting and outreach to students that are currently enrolled, as well as marketing to new families and so forth. So it would be those 2 pathways, that we are asking consideration for. And again, really feel like this is a great time for us to do it. Timing wise, we're way on the front end instead of being late, kind of where we were last fall. And so I think we can really see some specific increases in student enrollment based on the addition of these. Yep.
So out of our 345, how many are undecided then?
Right now it's about 140, 156, I believe, let me.
And is there, I know this is a hard one, is there any way to gauge how many additional are anticipated in signing on due to the 2 new options?
We can do forecasting, and I can get a forecasted number for you. What I do know, I've been in conversation with Wisconsin Virtual Academy, which runs like the machine operations that we're looking at.
Okay.
What they have seen is an increase in their new students and their partnership with school districts across the state. That pathway for them specifically has about 121 students in it. Half of them are part-time students, and then about half of them are full-time students that are coming in. What we're seeing right now is a trend of new kids coming in. We've been between 20 to 40 each quarter, new students coming in, even with just those new students coming in purely to DCA from the pathways that we have. We feel like by increasing that and by marketing that out, that we can see that number grow quite a bit.
Do you have the courses for the 4-year path in any
Yep.
one of these?
Yep.
Will we be able to get a copy?
Yep, I can forward that. Yep. So all of the pathways, have been sequenced out. They're sequenced out based on K-12, and then we use that, the K-12 kind of formula for that, and then we use that and work alongside of the Department of Education to make sure that they're meeting all Minnesota standards as well.
Because I know you have that for the other 2.
Yep.
Yeah, what I think you said also in the other meeting, there was an opportunity to make changes if need be as we go along.
Yep.
Because we were specifically talking about IT.
Yep.
Because of the changes in IT as it goes, so
Yep.
we may start with the curriculum we're talking about now, but that in 2 years from now, it may be different
Totally
than what it is today.
Yep.
So, right.
Yep. So it is being able to pivot and be fluid in that is
Right.
really important.
I just wanna make sure
with
people
each.
know that, so.
Yeah.
So budget-wise, is there a number of students that has to be hit to consider it
Successful.
successful?
I think if we get 120 kids in the one program, that was pretty good.
So,
Go ahead.
may I speak? From a budget standpoint, I mean, we can certainly come with that, but adding the pathways really shouldn't be something that the budget would cause us to not be able to do.
Okay.
It's just advantageous for students. It's a value proposition statewide, for part-time students, as Leslie had mentioned. So really, in so many ways, it just wins on all fronts.
Are some of these classes dual credit then with
They
the
would, yep,
associate?
so we would build those so that they
Okay.
are, that they can get dual credit for them.
And that would be in all these paths or especially in the operators one?
Nope, and all of the paths have the possibility for us to build relationships with colleges so that students can get dual credit for those. Our big, the issue behind that then is licensure, making sure students are licensed appropriately. But we are sitting in a really great space. Being at the table, we have started meeting regularly with the consortium, the Perkins Consortium from Southeast Minnesota. We are an active voice at that table. I have joined their transition planning team, which hasn't happened previously for us. And so to be in that as well, we're hitting all of those marks to make sure what our kids would experience at MNVA through DCA would be the same as if they were in a brick and mortar school in an academy model or a pathway or anything like that. So no, we are making sure, we want to build it so that it is highly, aligned and competitive with what students would get in a brick and mortar.
So if we approve it at our January meeting, what Scott would do this advertising that he has in the past from the other two programs.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay,
All right.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Great
Thank you.
question.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our active shooter discussion. Brandon, you gonna talk about that? Thanks, guys, for coming down.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys
Thank
for
you.
coming out. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Good evening. I guess I speak on behalf of quite a few parents that weren't able to be here because of the concert and whatnot, but just curious, this year so far, you've already had 3 confirmed arrests for threats. What more are we gonna do for active shooter training? What more are we gonna do to help prevent this kind of stuff? I mean, I went to active shooter training in Crescent a week or 2 ago, and you learn that it takes a lot of resources. A lot of resources we don't have. We're in a rural community here. You have an active shooter during the day. You have, as long as our chief is in town, he could be here in about 3 minutes. As long as one of our deputies that lives close by is home for the day, he could be here 5 minutes. But otherwise, our closest resource is 10 minutes out, 15 minutes out. And to some of us parents, that's a big concern, that more needs to be taken care of. And we're just curious on what you guys are gonna do about it. I mean, are we gonna do more about this? I mean, I've spoke with quite a few staff, and some of them don't have a clue what to do. I mean, they ask us. They've come to me because I brought this up, so they've come to me and asked me, well, what are we supposed to do? Well, this is what I learned as my role in the job, but, there's some other teachers that haven't seen anything since Alice training back in 15, I believe it was. So, I mean, what more are we gonna do here? I mean, you guys have plenty of professionals that are more willing to jump right in and help you guys train and do anything we gotta do. I'm not saying taking first graders and put them in a live action situation. We obviously talk to a senior different than we do a kindergartner. But I mean, I think this is a huge problem. I think we need to do more about this. Like you said, 3 confirmed arrests this year.
Where at?
From Houston, for threats.
In the school?
From the school, there's been 3 arrests for threats.
I question your numbers. There was one arrest in a neighboring district with a threat made against a student here.
Concerning the school, 3 arrests that
Except-
involved with the school.
For that one, we went into a soft lockdown for the safety of our students. The student that made the threat was in another district. The student was taken out of the classroom in that other district. That district did not go into a lockdown, where the threat was coming from there. Where we did go into a soft lockdown to protect our kids, to make sure no one from the outside could come in. So I would like you to note that we did what was necessary for the safety of our students.
Well, we still have 1 confirmed arrest from the school, where it happened in the school. That's enough to scare quite a few parents. Me as a parent of 7 kids in your district, you guys are in charge of the safety of my children for 7+ hours a day. I wanna know that you're doing everything possible to make sure they are safe. I mean,
Corinne, do you
soft
have
landfill.
information on all the stuff that we are compliant with? Because I mean, we wanna hear what's going on, but
And I'm saying
I
we
know we
always, we
do.
always can improve,
Mhm.
but I did, when you brought this to me, what I did was to call the other local superintendents and saying, because I wanted to know if what we were doing was that far out of alignment with what the other schools were doing.
Mhm.
So I did ask, and I put that together, on a sheet, and, the one thing that came out is that Caledonia and Spring Grove both do what they call, tabletop discussions, where they're, at Spring Grove, I think they have Matt
That's
sites coming in and talking to each of their classrooms individually, and in, then the Caledonia, it's their police chief that comes in and talks to each class, and, tomorrow, Todd and Rick and I are going to be meeting with the sheriff and our chief of police to see if there's something from this meeting that we should be putting in, if there's something that we're not doing that we should be doing. Because we do want to always make sure that our students are safe.
do you know
As
what
far
we're
as-
doing right now as far as what's being done? Or are you just going off of what
From
you know?
what I've
you've
been
talked to
told
people.
from some staff and stuff like that, and from students is, you know, you guys talk about it, table it in the beginning of the season. From what I understand, nothing's been discussed over at the elementary school yet this year, until they got their packets a week ago. If you know me, I'm a proactive guy.
Mhm.
You know, if something just to go down here, coming from a EMT or a emergency responder standpoint, before I took that shooter training, I had no clue what I would do. That pager went off for a school shooter, not a clue what my job is to do. I'm not gonna go bother the cop that's on duty, because his head's already spinning off his body, wondering what's going on. You know, for me, it's, what I wanna see is a solution. I wanna see a committee put together with some school board members, Mrs. Abrams, some teachers, the principals, fire, EMS, ambulance, sheriff's department, put a committee together, we discuss this, and training, I think there should be more training. Once a year, once every 2 years, you know, and it's not mandatory. We're not gonna put kids in a situation where they're gonna get all stressed out with PTSD or anything. But there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of staff, and a lot of students that would love to help in this training, that wanna learn this stuff and wanna know more about it. So if something does happen, we're top notch, you know, instead of being compliant, we wanna be way above compliance.
Well, I know when we do even when we do a lockdown drill here at the high school teachers talk to the kids about, okay, if this, because we just had the dogs come in and like to say that the dogs hit on nothing, so the kids didn't even know the dogs were here. If they hit on something, they barked. It was totally silent, so they didn't hit on anything. But while they were doing that lockdown, the teachers took that time to talk to kids and had the conversation about if this had been an active shooter. Number one, the alert would come on the loudspeaker, telling individual rooms where to go. Since we're streaming, I'm not gonna say where our safe zones are, but the teachers know that they would be told over the loudspeaker which rooms should go to which safe location, because that's the first thing in Alice training is that alert and letting everybody know what they need to be doing, where they need to be going. As far as the fire department and what you guys need to be doing, your chief is here. That might be something where the chief comes in and, you know, where some situations, it might be that you're setting up a perimeter so that, because the law enforcement has to come in. The law enforcement, when we have had, I think the arrest you're talking about, that was, we called Officer Hurley right away, and he did the threat assessment, and we made sure that there were never kids in any jeopardy at all, and he was very helpful with that threat assessment right away. But with that, if we had an active shooter here, it's the law enforcement, that, not that I'm discounting the fire at all, but they know what to do. They know how to handle it. We've had incidents before where you've had the sheriff's department here and other local law enforcement, and they've been very helpful. And we've had the triage meetings after those things, and each time we learn what we could be better at. And so we've got some very good plans now, and that's in working in concert with them, because I'd like to think we're partners in providing the safety for our students.
Do you guys are, you're the professionals, right? I mean, we just are administrative people here. I mean, are you feeling that we need to do more? I mean, I've never gone to this active shooter training like you were just talking about, to be honest with you. I've never gone to that
The
class.
HURT training, it's, for the emergency response team. It was a mass casualty drill, that it was at La Crescent, and during that training, no staff or students were allowed in the building. And so Kevin Cardill, the superintendent, invited me to come over and watch it, and then called me back and said, oh, my bad, sorry, I don't think you'd be allowed here. And I said, well, tell me, he was there as the person with keys and access, so I said,
I can't speak to that. I guess I don't know why they wouldn't allow a superintendent to come and observe.
okay,
Kevin was there.
Kevin was there.
But I think it would have been great to have all of the superintendents there. The HURT training is more geared towards law enforcement, EMS, and those types of professionals that to work together. It's a training environment because we don't work together, or train together very often. It's to establish roles in that type of a hostile event response. This is what law enforcement's role is. This is what the fire department's role is. This is what the ambulance personnel's role is. That's what that type of training is geared towards.
That's for the casualties then, that's post-incident,
No, I wouldn't call it post-incident. It's
or during and following?
Start to finish
Okay.
for the most part.
Well, as close to the start as you can get.
It would be from the time that we,
Are
as law
notified.
enforcement personnel,
Gets
would
the
get a
call.
call, and then how does all the different agencies respond, and what is their
Brandon,
specific
do you
role?
guys, so did everyone, or did you get selected?
No, it was only open to us chiefs, and then, I don't know if enrollment was down or what, but then they opened it up to other firefighters, they'd be able to go, so me and another firefighter went to this training, so, because it was a 8-hour training,
Yeah.
like 8 or 9 hours.
And once again,
Saturdays.
that's geared, like Sheriff Ringo was saying, that's geared more towards our response.
So you would notify them then? In the case of that event, you would notify the fire department?
I would, dispatch would get that information,
Okay.
and then everybody would be paged out from then on, and so forth, and then go to the designated role. Whereas Alice is more specific to the school,
The school,
staff
students'
response,
response.
students'
Right.
response. So it's kind of two different
I got
things
you.
that we're talking about.
I got you.
You know, the HURT training is more geared towards us and
But
our jobs.
these guys would be called to respond from
Absolutely.
your call to them. Okay.
So my question again is there more that I'm not, I think we always should look at what other things we could be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing enough. Is there more that we should be doing? I mean, I know we've done a lot of security updates in the building itself, as far as like the double entrance and, lockdown and all, that type of thing. And
I would like to see the school, and hopefully Superintendent Abraham and us can talk about this more tomorrow, but I'd like to see the school have more of a regular, consistent training in something. We advocate for the Alice. I understand that's a little bit controversial for some people. It's something that we need to do something other than just teach and train and practice lockdown. Lockdown isn't always appropriate anymore. That started back in the late 60s, early 70s out on the West Coast with drive-by shootings. If, lock the students down, nobody leaves and would be in range of gunfire on the drive-by, that works fine for that situation. but we don't see many drive-by shootings. We see shooters in the schools now.
I mean, looking at this list, I don't wanna jump in, but
Mhm.
it doesn't seem like anybody's really doing, other than what we're doing in the area.
What was the
You know,
last
more
one?
than what we, you know, I'm getting at, so.
Caledonia and La Crescent are regularly training with Alice.
With Alice,
Yes.
are they, and that's the only one that they're involved in.
I think, who gave us that demonstration from Caledonia?
That was our deputy
Yeah,
sites.
Okay, was that the last one done in our county then? Or is the
Not in-
Crescent done one since?
Boy.
Crescent, because every, back to school, they do they get Tom, I think I spelled his name correctly, Tom Wright, the Gunderson security director. Kevin has contacted him, and Tom comes in every fall with the staff. And, he actually does some tabletop discussions with the kids there as well.
So I think what
And I
Brandon's
know
looking
that-
for is some more action involved as far as the school, maybe like what you guys are gonna talk about tomorrow, come up with a plan.
I would like to see an
Yeah.
action involved with everything.
Well, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
just, I mean, knowledge is power. Some kid that's on the fence of whether or not I'm gonna do something stupid at the school, now he sees that the school, the teachers, fire, ambulance, cops, sheriffs, everybody's involved in this training. It's some kid that's gonna click and go, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. These guys know what's going on and we've been training hard for it. Maybe not. Where, you know, if we just sit down and talk about it at the beginning of the year, half the kids don't listen anyways.
So what would be, again, I'm just using both of you guys' knowledge, cause you're both involved in this type of thing, whether it be a fire situation, EMT situation, or, you know, hospital, with you guys. How often should something like that be done?
I think it should be done at least annually.
Annually?
Yeah.
As a
I mean,
training-
how often do you guys practice fire drills and so forth?
We're required to have 5 a year.
So,
5 lockdowns.
and I don't mean this in a disrespectful term, but you practice 5 fire drills a year, and yet there's,
Understood.
you know, I don't know when the last time.
Oh, no, I know what you're getting at.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know what path you're following down there.
Yeah,
And we're very happy about that, yeah.
Right.
So I think we should maybe switch our priority, not switch, but at least bring our priorities up to the same level for that type of thing. And like I said, Alice is controversial for some people. I don't know where Houston administration lies on that.
The administration is supportive of Alice, and, the on-site administration has all gone to the Alice Train the Trainer. So we're all trained, Alice trainers. We did that in, Winona, I think 2014.
Okay.
I do know that we have some staff that, maybe more in the elementary, just because of the age of the kids, are, not as supportive. And it might be that in talking to certain staff, you get, instead of a global response of what's really happening, you get this one person's perspective of what's happening, and so you might get a skewed perspective with what's happening. I know Todd talks to all of the teachers here in the back to school, and, the teachers are talking to the kids, but it might make sense to have Officer Hurley or maybe Matt Seitz come in and talk to the kids as well individually. And at the elementary, I know Todd has talked to the teachers. I'm not sure if he's talked to the support staff as much. So if you're talking to support staff, you might get a very different view than if you're talking to a teacher. And so that there's always perspective and where you're getting the information.
So my question, Corinne, would be, you have staff members, then my understanding, that are Alice trained to instruct. So you've talked to the students every year, you have a couple of tabletop discussions. When is the last time the school district has actually done a full Alice drill?
The full Alice drill was
November 9th, 2015.
November 9th, 2015.
Okay.
And that's, 2015, as far as the whole drill, that kind of falls in line because we did Alice came in 2014, most of the schools did their full-blown training, 2015, 2016. I don't know of many places that have done the full training since then. In talking to, Craig said his was the last one they did in Caledonia with the full-blown training was, Ben Barton was still there as superintendent, so they haven't done it since Craig's been there. They haven't done it in Crescent Hoka since Kevin's been there, and Kevin came in 2015. Lanesboro, Matt
Well, it's
Schultz was
irrelevant what these
adamant.
other-
Yeah.
It's irrelevant what these other schools have been doing. I think what we should look at is go off of your guys' recommendation.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like to me, it should be something we should maybe look at as an annual training. It may not be the full-blown training, you know, we may have another full-blown training just to bring everybody up to speed. We may have some people that are not where they should be, but at the same time, maybe I'm just throwing this out, and you can agree or disagree, whatever you think is recommended, because you're the expert, not me. I mean, if you're saying we should have some type of training every year, maybe have a full-blown one, but then every year after that, maybe do that every 4 years or every 3 years, or whatever you guys recommend. And then in between times, once a year, twice a year, or like you said, we do 5 fire drills, why not have 2 of these a year or something?
Yeah.
Oh, we do
Caledonia,
lockdown drills.
But
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
again, we're doing you're talking about
Yes, we do
lockdowns.
them 5 times a year.
It
I
is,
mean, it's
is
just
that-
something
We're
else.
talking about evacuation.
It
Is
is
that
a-
consistent with both high school and elementary? With
The lockdown?
With the drills,
any sort of drill, I mean,
Yeah,
lockdown's
it's
one
by
thing, but
statute.
just
it's
like.
by
the-
statute.
You have to.
We have to by statute.
So I have to do so many each year.
We might not, the elementary might not do the lockdown drill the same day that the high school does the lockdown drill. But it's by statute,
And just in a nutshell, what does a lockdown drill consist of?
Sometimes it's a soft lockdown drill where the kids, know they can't leave the building with a soft lockdown, and at that point, the teachers talk to them about what would be happening. In other cases, Todd does set up like a cone in certain places as far as this orange cone would be like the active shooter, and then people have to leave the building. I admit that we're wimpy and we don't do a lot of those in the winter, just because it's cold outside, and so we wait, we do those in the fall, we do those in the spring. Now, does that mean that we wouldn't be prepared in the winter? No, but I don't know about.
Well, and some of this perhaps should be discussed tomorrow during our meeting. But
That's exactly, I mean, as a board, it's, our student security is top priority, and so that's exactly what I would say.
And their
is have your-
education.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, we're not looking beyond that. We're very interested in your input after you meet tomorrow, and then as a group, we can discuss it.
No, because we wanna work together, because student safety is paramount.
I think what ends up happening, we're in a situation, we're in a small community, and you kinda get into that widget world where everything's just going good. You know, God forbid something actually happened. You know, because then everybody's gonna be on the opposite side all the time. So I think being prepared, like you were saying, you guys sit down, again, you guys are the experts, not us. You guys set up a plan, bring back to us, and then we'll, you know,
Your recommendations.
your recommendation on what you feel we need to do. You guys have been out there, you guys have been to different schools, you went to the training here just recently on it. You know, let us know what we should be doing other than what we're doing, but at the same time, understand what we do now, like you were saying, Michael.
Well, I was just gonna say, what's amended to our policy 806 policy is that we refer to the Comprehensive School Safety Guide. It has a January 2014 appendix update that has several pages of a safe school self-assessment checklist. It might be a starting point for that conversation, so that you know what our administration has been doing from that list. And then you can see other things on it, and there can be a springboard for, you know, and there's a whole page of a variety of trainings, including Alice training, but there are lots of other training packages that might be appropriate on off years or annually or in a different rotation. I just think there's a lot of stuff out there. We need to know what we have. You need to know what is in place to feel more comfortable with that, and we need to know what you're recommending. that we should.
That's a good idea. I can have that
Yeah,
sheet at our meeting
cause
tomorrow.
I personally don't really have any clue what your policy is,
Oh,
or
it's,
your
it's
protocol.
an extensive
She knows
But
policy.
you can have it ready for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll
I
have,
mean, I'd
But
be
you can
very
go through
interested in
it.
looking at
You bet.
that.
That-
And those
that's my other-
procedures are all in there for like, reverse evacuation and intruder, a lockdown with intruder and lockdown without intruder, and and how they're announced and how the staff is trained, because they're the leads on that.
Mhm.
So that is some of the training that is just the teach and not do, but you need to know what they are at least being trained.
But that's also some of our other issue is, you know, you guys took the trainer in 14.
Mhm.
Al's training was at 15. We've had how many school shootings since then? We've learned many new things not to do. Back at 15, it worked. I've been CPR certified since I was 12 years old. Every 2 years, it changes.
Oh,
Just
I'm
same
not
thing
saying,
with this,
no,
you
I'm
know,
not arguing
and that's
with
why
you at
we're
all.
trying to push that we need to
No,
do
it's-
more and
it's
be
a-
more proactive as a school.
We
district.
appreciate that you're bringing it to our
Yeah.
attention, because again, we have policy that we go off of. And is it the right way? Now, you know, a lot of the people are telling us it is. Are we doing pretty much what a lot of the schools around us are doing? Yeah, we're doing pretty much what everybody else is, but again, shouldn't be necessarily our concern. Our concern should be, just like you guys were talking about, let's look at what we have in our policy, sit down, review it, how can we enhance it, how can we do a better job at what we're doing for the safety of our students?
Yes, I
Just
agree.
remember, it always comes after the fact. So just like tonight now, when you come before the board, there should have been other parents with you. But regardless what they had going on, parents aren't overly concerned about it until it happens.
Till it happens.
Then when it happens, that's when we as a board obviously have to prove at that time, what did you do to prepare for this? And if we haven't done anything in preparation, then where parents get very, very excited. Where, you know, if their kids are all prepared and everything goes positive as it can with one of those incidents, you know, then everybody's done everything they can. But you're not gonna have a parent involvement until one of those things happens, and then that's too late. So,
Even like Tom was saying, the cameras and the security upgrades that we put in all of our buildings, that has been a priority for us ever since back then. I mean, there are a lot of things that have been put in place that were not.
the
And
building
we
is a
keep
different
adding,
building
making
than the
sure
one
that
you
they're updated,
graduated
because
from.
some of the
Another
security
thing-
systems changed, and
Yeah.
Another big
communication
thing-
between the schools.
Remember is, you know, we run 3 buildings here. I mean, this is obviously gonna be a higher priority, because this is where, if something's gonna happen, 99% chance it's gonna happen in this building. But you go over to the preschool, that's a building surrounded by glass, and for them, they have to buzz somebody in, but they come up to open the door to a full glass building. You know, shooter, they're done. Your elementary school, you walk over there, you get buzzed in. I know, probably because Barb knows me, everybody knows me, so I'm buzzed in and allowed to go do what I need to do. But otherwise, any stranger that walks in, they sign off to the left that says, "Welcome to Houston Elementary School, please check in the office." Where's the office?
We,
You know, if
Yeah.
somebody was really gonna do this, and they go
Well,
over
I'm
there.
Yeah,
not
we're
disagreeing with you, but
We're
But I'm
trying
not-
to move in
we've
that
got on our
direction.
plan right now to eliminate that whole situation over there.
I'm not saying.
The
go
problem
revamp the whole
is,
building.
no,
I'm
well,
just
you
saying-
pretty much have
that's
to.
what we are.
That's what you
planning,
have to do
but we-
to do that, but again, that costs dollars, and, you know, kinda like what Pete said, you know, right now, if you were to say to people, we're gonna increase your taxes by 40%, so we can do all those things, they'd be saying, you know what you can do with that. But if something were to happen, again, God forbid it does, then it would be like, why don't you ask? So, as a board, we are working on the better security over in that building. I mean, we're working on different things that are,
We,
but again, it takes time, funding. It's not like the state will call you up and say, hey, we got an extra $2 million, you wanted to do this? Cause we're on that list.
Well,
That's the thing,
Mabel
I'm not
got
here
there.
pushing to say, hey, you need to redo this, all this in that building. What I'm saying is, we need to better train our staff.
Oh, I
as
agree. I'm
possible,
not disagreeing with
To
you.
the fullest as possible, because of situations like that.
Mhm.
Because that one there, think like criminal. You go over there at lunchtime, and Bart buzzes you in and nobody meets you. I now have full access to the cafeteria, library,
Mhm.
the band room, and the gymnasium. I just screwed up a whole town real fast, just by doing that. And with with having the teachers and everybody's more properly trained with that stuff, we can hopefully eliminate more of that threat.
Well,
And that's what I'm pushing.
I think that system has to change, as Tom said, that we're working on that. But, you know, this is fine and dandy, you know, as we compare to each of the schools around. But I think probably your onset here should be is when the sheriff meets tomorrow with the administration, you know, who's to say we can't be number one on this? Where we're going the extra mile and doing the extra things, because it's not a dollar figure right now. We're down the road, it can get to that. So instead, yeah, it's good for the chief to know what are you doing, what's Houston doing right now? But instead, what is recommended, as Tom mentioned earlier, what's recommended by the professionals in this that should be done? And then that's the conversation they have to have tomorrow, and then we move further from there. But we don't just put it on the back burner and say, yep, we met with them and that was it. Instead, you go forward and you try to alleviate those problems as quickly as you can. And then that satisfies everybody, and, you know, that's the best you could do right now.
I agree. The back, I mean, I wouldn't wanna see it go back to the back burner.
No.
Sometimes it has a tendency to do that. My biggest mess, I thought there was gonna be more parents here, and I wanted to hear what their concerns were. That's the main reason I came tonight.
Well, we
because
appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
much.
believe me, I know you're a busy man, so.
With multiple parents with concerns, it would be good for me to hear those concerns. I mean, I sometimes hear them on an individual basis, but I don't hear from multiples.
Are you saying like the entrance issue that Brandon's bringing up, you mean those specific concerns?
I was interested in what are Houston parents concerned about with the safety of the school? What are they concerned? What do they think we're doing? What do they think we're not doing? And I say we as a collaboration.
Okay.
So that's what I was hoping to gain here tonight. But my biggest message is for you guys is that once we establish something or at least start moving forward, that it stays rolling. The drills have to be practiced. They can't just be talked about. The Parkland shooting that everybody's familiar with, that's almost 2 years ago now. I was amazed watching the news. They interviewed a 16, 17-year-old girl. She was outside that school when the shooting started. And she went back in because she was trained to lock down. And that scares me.
Our kids would not,
I don't think you can sit there and say that.
I would hope our kids have.
Because you don't know how they're gonna react.
Right.
She panicked and thought, lockdown, I gotta lock down. So she went back into the school. Nobody knows how your students are gonna react.
Yeah, you don't know even after you train them for hours and hours and hours.
If that was to ever happen, it would be complete chaos. I don't care how many times you practice it. I don't care how many times you do anything. It will be pure chaos. So you have to try to control that chaos to the best of your abilities. But, and that's because she practiced and practiced and practiced lockdown.
So we do talk about doing polling parents when we have parent-teacher conferences. We don't always get, but we've talked about developing survey questions to try and solicit parental input. And perhaps there are some questions that you could offer that we could put out.
Well, we're putting out the Education Matters, the
Well, if you can
end
put
of
something together
December, I
quickly
can,
enough there.
I
mean,
can put
think that's
something into Education Matters
find
that,
out what their concerns are.
Yeah, and I have a question. I don't know if the stuff that you currently do, I know that you're gonna bring the sheet tomorrow for our meeting, which is fine for the purposes of what we're doing. Is that something that's spread out to the parents?
Well,
As far as-
it's in the, you can look at that policy anytime you want it.
it's online.
It's available.
Because that's, I mean, me being the chief, I have had parents come to me and say, well, what do they do? What are their policies? What are their protocols? And I said, that's something that you're gonna have to go.
If you go to our
ask the
website,
administrators.
those are on there.
Because Brandon is the only parent that's brought it up to me. And I think it's funny that parents would ask you what we're doing at the school and not come and ask the school what we're doing at the school.
And that happens sometimes where I'm at the office, or I have the badge and I'm driving around the black and white squad car, so they think immediately I have all the answers to the whole world's problems.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
do.
Well,
So-
tomorrow you'll have the list.
Tomorrow I have the list and I'll have it laminated in the squad car. And it's just one of those things where they are just kind of asking those general questions, so I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if that's something that's available to
It's
to
part of
the
handbook.
parents and people like that, and if they choose not to look at it, that's
And we
fine.
put it out
It's
like
their
she
choice.
was saying, it's in the handbook, it's in,
In every
every
building.
year, we update most of them on a frequently basis sheet.
That one, that policy has, it's an
It's
annual
every year.
update.
Yeah,
It's
so,
every year, cause it's tied to some funding and so.
so again, it's good. I mean, I appreciate you coming tonight to let us know that there's a concern out there, and hopefully this answers your
Some-
questions.
Some of them.
And obviously, it's not
all of
over
them, but-
because you're not gonna allow that to be done,
But
because,
we,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
If someone could possibly email me a copy of that before tomorrow morning,
sure.
or, you know, before we meet anyways,
Mhm.
I would like to look through that.
do you want the policy list too, and what we have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That'd be great.
can you send him the list of that policy that Michaeline was talking about, please?
806, 806, yeah.
Mhm.
Crisis.
Crisis.
One school tried overdoing it, and they decided the first day of school, they were gonna do the lockdown. And parents got all upset because they did the lockdown for the kindergartners. And this kindergartner came back home, didn't wanna go to school at all, says, was just excited, what this first day is supposed to be at school for. And it turned out to be a disaster for it, a particular one, because they wanted to make sure that.
Well, there
they
again,
did
I
it
think
right.
it's age
They overdid
appropriate.
it.
yeah.
You know, and I think
Yeah.
these guys know what that
Right.
pertains to.
Yeah.
You know,
But
you
I-
guys know what to do with it, like you had mentioned
Use
earlier.
completely different
You
terminology.
talk and communicate with a kindergartner way different than how you talk to
Yes.
a high school student.
And it was good for me to talk to the other superintendents because I didn't know anything about these tabletop discussions, and it seems like that's what a lot of other districts are using, and it's really working from what they're saying very, very well.
One thing I like that Caledonia is doing, and it's public and parochial, they're doing evacuation drills. I think last year they did 2, I don't know where they're at this year. But like Caledonia High School, 400, 500 some students, they had that entire building empty within right around a minute.
Well, wouldn't a
And-
fire drill be an evacuation?
Hmm.
The
Well,
fire
the
drill's an
drill is an
evacuation.
evacuation drill, isn't it?
Yes, but, I mean, we're talking about placing students where they're supposed to go and those other things too. I just think it's important that we keep practicing the evacuation part of Alice, cause that's the key part.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if the shooter's in this room, there's probably nowhere to go, but for the entire rest of the school there is. And that's out.
So, good. I appreciate you guys again.
All right.
You guys are all busy, so I appreciate you guys taking the time to come tonight. Brandon, I appreciate your input and questioning on us, so we can get it going. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Old business, items for discussion and approval, the levy certification 2019, payable 2020.
Oh, are you going to blow it up a little more?
I wish I could.
Okay.
Is that how it's made?
Okay. And, just as a reminder, what we talked about was,
Can you use this, because I can't follow, the laser will at least, when you're talking about a column, just use the
Okay.
little
See,
square. Thank you,
Okay.
because I can't keep up with you guys when you're jumping around.
Michael Amy, educator. She likes the laser beam here.
I love it when you bring the laser. If you scroll down, just because it's the bottom line, because now I've got this.
Oh, there.
So here, if this one is keeping basically the gen ed that we're going to be, the gen ed aid, keeping it the same. This is what we're getting right now.
That's
and then keeping the gen ed about the same. Then what we've got is, an increase, we talked about this one at the last meeting, it would be an increase of about 2.3 on taxes, and it would, on $100,000 home, increase taxes $14 a year. But at that point, if you see this, our gen ed last year, was 2,148,000, and this gets our gen ed, this is the, okay,
Yeah, the one on the right is where we want.
It's keeping our income the same.
Yeah.
Now look at the local gen ed.
the local gen ed.
So the last column keeps the local gen ed.
Oh, yeah, there
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, the 1592.
Right.
1592, there we go.
Okay.
1592, there's a local levy, local living aid, it keeps that flat.
The second one from the right keeps taxes flat, but it decreases our revenue.
It
Right.
decreases our revenue, by a bit, so that at least, this one keeps our,
We vote on this tonight?
yes.
So the recommendation from the finance committee, if anybody's concerned, is one far right. The one where it goes up 2.3%, just for the twofold. Mimi, we were talking about the third one out, the 14.1. That would be one we don't wanna do. The one in the middle, obviously, if we keep it flat, we'll lose revenue, which is what we don't necessarily wanna do, because we already know how tight we are gonna be the next year. So our recommendation as a finance committee was that one on the end.
And so then it would
So we
be, as
get
somebody,
all our money from the state.
if you made the motion, the property tax rate, you would move to, increase property tax rate to 0.61.
Correct. So,
And just to let everybody know that being on the school board doesn't necessarily help you tax-wise, because
No, it
I
doesn't.
had and I point this out because other people need to be aware of this. I have a house in Houston, a rental house, and after the meeting last year, I requested that they come and review my taxes on that house and the assessed value. They did come over right away, like within a week or two. They looked at the house and, yeah, you're too high, you know, and we're gonna readjust this. And so then I sat back thinking, good, I'm being adjusted. Well, all of a sudden I got my taxes and they were still high. I called the county and it turns out that the person temporarily hired at that time didn't turn the paperwork in. So therefore, this year, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
And I'm being assessed 20,000 higher for that house than what I will be in the future. Even though they totally agree I'm 20,000 too high. Doesn't matter, they can't do a thing about it because it wasn't turned in, and so,
We thank you for your contribution.
yeah, so, and that means I will pay about 25% more taxes on that particular house. So, just to let people know that in case you feel like you aren't treated equally, that's what could have happened. No.
okay, so, do we have a motion to approve the, levy certification to the .610? We have a motion,
So moved.
okay, we have a motion,
And I second it.
we have a second, discussion.
So how, from the proposed and from where we levied max in those areas that were max to now setting the levy, what is that adjustment gonna be?
From the proposed is at 0.74, and we're dropping that down to 0.61, so the property tax rate increase that's on their proposed taxes is 24.2%.
Can you see my
And,
finger?
I'm
Right,
trying to find.
It's-
right there, left, right
This
there,
one?
right down, yeah,
Okay, Fran.
right there.
This is on their proposed.
That's
twenty-four
what,
point
that's what
two,
everyone got.
and it's going to get down to 2.3.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
going to be a reduction of,
About 22%.
about,
Okay,
yeah,
that's, thank you,
About.
that's what I.
Well,
Wait,
you
21.9.
I knew you were gonna say it.
Which we couldn't firmly say at Truth and Taxation, but did mention that that was where it was directed towards.
Yes.
And now we're following
Were you at
through
that
with what we had talked
I
about.
watched it.
Oh, yeah.
But you get, the public, we are on the same page as we were then, is all I'm saying.
Okay, I didn't know the numbers,
That's
because
okay.
I couldn't see that
No, I
as you're
get that.
talking, I couldn't.
But just for anyone out there listening.
And the two people that were here, one had, neither had just that $100,000 homestead home that we've got there.
Neither did, yeah.
One had ag property and the other one had commercial property. And the commercial property person didn't understand why his taxes increased so much, but it's one of those, it's the same with the rental. The, commercial and or rental properties, because the ag to school credit shifted 18, the farm used to have 18% of the burden and that dropped down to 6. So that meant that the commercial went from 12% of the burden up to 28.
And he did understand after it was explained, we have a reduction each year in the amount of commercial properties, which then encompasses the ones that are left,
The burden.
they have the burden, and he now understands that.
He's not thrilled about it, but he understands it.
Is there ever a way on these where you have effect on a $100,000 home, is there ever a line in there that you can say how this affects whatever, an average farm or
40
ag
acres or
land
something.
or a business commercial, just, for people that are coming in from those
I don't know if we
areas?
could ever do that, is there, Gwen?
There probably isn't, but I'm,
So many calculations that go into those.
yeah, there's really no
Well, I think
way.
Rushford did that when they were building the new school.
They did as far as-
kept projecting that.
They projecting, but
The
the projections
accuracy
were,
leaves some question there though.
Yeah, you don't wanna do it if you
Because,
can't be.
No, if you can't be
used for
accurate,
lot.
then it's tough.
Valid
And
and
it-
reliable.
Good question, but.
it's a good thought, but, the $100,000 home, how many homes are exactly $100,000?
Well, I know, but we have,
But it gives
rural,
people
we
an
have
idea.
people with
It gives you
rural
an
property,
idea.
and we have business owners, and they're the ones that get
And there's a drastic difference between the
dollar amount
agricultural
percentage.
classification and the residential.
Understood.
Like the one gentleman that was here actually isn't agricultural, he's residential,
Oh,
in the country.
oh,
See,
so
there's,
Oh,
there's
there's even
rural
that.
residential, there's rural recreational too, which is even higher yet, so,
Yeah. Okay.
it's a lot of categories.
Well, just a-
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution concerning property swap with, Schultz.
this, we
We
thought
already
we'd
talked
filed
about it.
all the paperwork correctly, and, Marlene said the property is still on her taxes, and so she asked her lawyer about it, and the lawyer said that what we had from our lawyer, as far as the property swap, wasn't accepted for some reason by the county, and so, we're just gonna do it again, and so he said that he's sure that the Houston County will accept this as an official property swap.
And that couldn't have been discovered before now, before the taxes came out?
Well, and it's just, she discovered it when
look at
she saw her taxes again and saw it was still there, cause we thought we had taken care of this last year.
Did you use QuickTime deeds
Yes,
to do it?
we used quitclaim deeds. And they said it wasn't,
Didn't get filed. That guy, we only worked one day, that guy.
Apparently the definition was correct, because I don't know what else it could be.
well, we used the quitclaim deeds, I thought
Our
it was
lawyer
the
said it
exact
was
same
right, they
definition.
thought it was right at that time,
Right.
but then when it got up to the county, the county never notified them saying, no, it's not right.
So we filed all the paperwork that our
You would have
lawyer
thought
told
when
us
they
to
filed
file.
it and
So
they
the same
realized it
submission
wasn't
is gonna be
correct, they
made,
would have
it's
came
just-
back and
No,
said,
it's
this
not a
isn't right.
quitclaim, instead of a quitclaim deed, it's now a resolution, and it'll have to have the signature of, the clerk and the,
Why did they have to change it from the QuickTime? Because
they said the quitclaim wasn't accepted by the county as an official.
It just seems,
It was just,
I know.
it's just right now, I just want this done. So
Anyway,
Marlene-
we've already
for-
agreed
for
to it
Mar-
before.
Marlene can have, I'm looking.
Marlene.
Marlene. Marlene
So-
can get the taxes right.
Is that
We need to vote on this,
Bonding area?
That would cost you money.
Yeah,
right? Corinne, we need to vote on this again.
yeah, please.
So do we have a motion to approve? Thank you.
Second.
Second. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, okay.
And
January 2020
we'll need
organization,
signatures tonight
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
maybe it's not going anywhere. We're working on it. So, organizational meeting 2020,
Just, we'll have the January 9th meeting, which will then, have the rest of the calendar, and the rest of the calendar will be approved at the January 9th meeting, but as I said before, it'll be, the second meeting in January will be January, 23rd, because at the third Thursday, we're up at MSBA, and then February on, we'll do first and third Thursdays of the month, other than July, where we just do the third.
so do we have a motion to approve the dates for the organizational meeting?
So move.
Second,
Second?
thank you. Discussion, all in favor?
Yeah, discussion, there was something in an information piece about whether you wanted at the January 9th meeting for us to do a proposal on committee meetings, proposed committee meetings. You like that for planning, or is that gonna be part of that calendar that you'll be presenting?
It won't be the approved one but it will be for information as far as these are the tentative dates. Because that, I thought that really helped this year, having those tentative dates. I don't want the board approving them because then they become
Locked down.
officially approved meetings and then we're locked in.
The only thing I would say about planning those committee meetings is that I know sometimes we have a committee meeting 1 hour before the full board meeting where the same information is rehashed, and if there's any way to jog those so that the committees can be more working committees with time to process the information before it is presented, it just seems.
We tried to do that with finance, I know this year. So the finance,
We
We
can
didn't
do
have a
that,
finance
I think
meeting right
everybody
before the
agrees to it, I
presentation.
know we changed it because there was some concerns before on monies. You know, because you get paid for,
Well, because there's only supposed to be a maximum of two committee meetings in a certain day, but it's
Right.
more, so I get, that was one concern, but the other concern is the topic of the committee meeting and the agenda item for the full board meeting being given a little space.
so noted. And then everybody got the list of groups that you're on, or
that's
Well,
No,
we're set at
committees
now.
will do that on the
committees, I
9th.
mean, everybody
Yeah.
got that list that they're on
The
now,
current
and if they
the
wanna,
current committees.
the current committees.
Where was that list?
Send out.
Yeah,
It was in a
Your
superintendent
announcements,
update?
email.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, just take a look at it, just so you
Okay.
know which ones you're on now, and then when we,
And which ones you
and
wanna
Pete
get off
won't be
of?
here, so that way you can add them to anyone that you want to.
Sorry,
I might not,
We're kinda
I got
scared.
that list made.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so we've got a motion, we got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution for a combined polling place.
We need to do this every year before December 31st. So moved.
Got a motion,
Second.
second, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, okay. MSHSL Foundation grant approval,
Move to accept.
Okay, thank you.
we got a motion, second, discussion,
Yeah, my question was, the dollar amount on that, 39, we've typically, it's something in there said that it's usually
2,000.
to around 2,000, and you can ask for not more than 5,000 or something, so I'm just wondering, did Todd have a line item? I mean, how did he arrive at the 3,900? I guess that's what I'm wondering, how he.
3907,
There,
there's a list.
Oh, there's the list.
yeah, it's all itemized.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any other questions?
nope, because it's kind of a strange dollar amount to pull out of there.
Well, I just wondered,
Yeah.
how did we target that compared to other years, but I see. But
So hopefully we'll get to 2 again.
yeah, well, hopefully we get the 39.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have
Six and
more
16.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? policies for second reading.
Move to approve policies for second reading.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, new business, bus replacement.
Okay,
This is gonna be a little bit of a discussion before we have to approve.
yeah, but I'm sorry, I wish we have time to think about it, but we don't.
Does everybody know what happened?
I read the information.
The handicap bus, a part broke loose in the engine, and that part went through the engine and basically acted like a grenade through the entire system. It would cost $30,000 to $40,000 to rebuild it, but since it went through the entire system, they're not sure that it would be a sound fix.
You're not standing by it.
They're not standing by the fix, let's put it that way.
How much is a new engine? I mean, I don't know anything
Well,
about this
that's how
stuff, but
much
that seems like a lot even for a new engine.
Car engine's $6,000.
It would be the new,
Diesel engine.
But that's what we're talking about, good, that's a good question.
Well, yeah,
We'll talk
and that's-
about it.
I mean,
What's the year of this bus?
this is a 2010, which actually means that it was built in 2009.
This is our one with the
Because a school bus, if we buy a school bus, a new school bus now, we would be buying a 2021. And I said,
So it says rebuilt engine will cost around 30 to 40, so a new engine would probably be closer to 50 to 60. Just going off of what a car.
With a warranty.
Yeah, if you get a rebuilt engine, they really don't warranty them. Where if you get a new engine, you usually get like a 3+ so many miles.
30 days.
Right, you get what they call the lights in the, behind you, when they don't see you lights, their warranty's over. So,
and so here we've
So
got
this
a
would be
quote
a
for a
new-
new bus,
gas.
gas. The difference between gas and diesel, the bus drivers would like to go to all gas buses. Number one, the diesel gels up when it's really cold out, and the
Can I ask you
buses
a question
started
on that?
asking sluggish.
Why are they adding additive? I mean, the only reason I ask is I have diesel engines in my property and we add anti-gelling stuff in it every time I put fuel in there. And I've never had any problem, even at 21 below. So are they maintaining them properly in that aspect, or are they just getting in and going? Cause there is an additive you should add to diesel every time you fill it up.
Yeah, or is it similar
in the
to
diesel.
the
Yeah,
semis that are on the road, because they do gel up,
Oh, well, we don't get it.
even with the correct fuel handling, but I'm like Tom, I have diesels also.
I don't,
But it's doing an oil change. What I've been told is the diesel buses require, what did Dan Kildall say, like 30 quarts?
oh yeah,
Of oil?
diesel are
Where the gas engine, it's 6.
Oh yeah,
And so-
diesel engines are always more cost for maintaining. The difference is longevity. Usually is why you're.
What do we
power,
have-
Torque.
What do we have in our fleet now for diesel versus gas?
The last new bus we bought was gas, and everybody wants a bus just like that one.
So just moving forward, that would be the option.
And in talking to Reddy, they said that they could afford it, they would flip their entire fleet to gas buses just because of, easier maintenance, and just better function.
And diesel would cost considerably more too. Brand new.
Or are they? And then
Oh,
the
yeah.
longevity of them, does the gas bus have a good track record?
Yeah.
I mean, you all think of semis cranking up 1 million miles.
Are we still using ready for repair? Major?
We're actually going to DeBush.
Okay, the bush now.
Yeah,
I think Reddy was just.
The bush will cross.
Isn't diesel like half a
Aaron Auger works for that.
that price?
right, and so this is with the handicap lift, it's brand new. The issue with the brand new one is that they have to build it, and we probably won't get this till the end of February or beginning of March, which means we'll need some transitional planning, so I've got calls to different agencies to see if they can do gap transportation for us. The guy at North Central where I got this quote, and it's a state bid price, so I know it's the lowest price for any of the buses. And in talking to Dan Kildall, the Bluebird has the Cummings, it's got the Cummings engine, and that's the one you want in your bus.
I would think a diesel would run at least 130,000.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
At least.
I'd say closer to.
Paul at
Probably
North
more.
Central said he found a used one for us. It's a 2017, which makes it a 2016, so it's soon going to be 4 years old, but it's in Missouri. And so my first question is, that's farther south, does it have the insulation and the heaters that we need? And he said, well, I'm sure it does, and then he checked it and said, no, you'd have to retrofit the heater to, and then he said, and it doesn't have the insulation that one of the Minnesota built buses have, and I said, I can't put a
So it's irrelevant.
under-insulated bus,
And the
but I
cost of
wanted
it
to
was-
have it as an option.
What was the cost on it? Wasn't it like $70,000 or $80,000 for a
Yes.
used bus?
What about doing a van for the handicap instead of a bus? Is it an option?
We looked at that option, if we retrofitted, cause we did buy that van that with the higher profile that we could retrofit for handicapped. But that would take that van out of service
What if we
already, so
added
we'd
a
have to
van?
get a different van.
We could buy a
Um,
van,
but-
we could buy 2 vans for the price of this.
Except it also means that we would have, if we have a van going out, then instead of having, the bus driver still has to do the bus route. So we'd still have the bus route, we'd still have, but we'd need to have another van driver and a para on that van. And so we would be almost doubling the salary cost.
Am I reading this right though, that without the handicap accessibility, then we're just taking off line item 2? Is that the base unit is the top line, obviously? So if you're just buying a new bus, no handicap
Oh,
accessibility?
no, it's the lift bus, it's got the lift right in it.
Okay, so
What's
what's
that non-taxable equipment? The WC?
Yeah,
What's that?
I think that is
well,
other,
I guess my question is, what is that bus? If Mimi's, following up on Mimi's question, if we bought a handicap accessible van, we still need a bus, obviously, so then how much is a bus that's not handicap accessible?
There's, what was the last bus? How much was the last
80
bus we bought?
87.
Okay, so,
Yep.
I like that thought, but we're more or less saying we still need a bus.
Well, my question was, I think Corinne kind of answered it, but I've thought for a while, do we really need as many buses as we have? Because I know some of the routes, given, I think you've redone the routes, but I feel like sometimes those buses are pretty empty. Could all those kids fit in a van?
And I asked Dan about that because we could get, well, there are some short buses, but the short bus has a 20 passenger, and I said, Dan, how many kids are on your route? And he said, if everyone rides, I'm at 41. And so.
Yeah, but,
that
but how many, I mean, there
You're
are
saying
kids on there
shuffling,
that never ride, they're not gonna ride the whole year.
Or is
So,
there any
is
routes
it
that
half
are,
of that, or is
is
it?
there any routes that you can bring down to that and safely, firmly say, just to explore this
Well,
option?
because Dan's already, Ron's route, he goes up on the ridge, and his route is already long, so Dan has pulled some of his kids off, just to make Ron's
Todd's
route.
going through all these routes, right? Todd is doing
Oh,
all.
yeah,
And I assume you have to be prepared for if everybody run, not.
you have to
There's
be
some,
You know what,
like you
though?
said, there's
You know
some
what,
that never
though?
ride, but
Yes, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I think if you told me as a parent, and I had my daughter last year who drove every single day, and said, if you're never gonna ride the bus, I mean, we have to spend $100,000 on a bus, and if you're never gonna ride, we need you to say, I'm never gonna ride. I mean, we're savings, it's costing us money for these kids that don't ride, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but as a parent, I'd be more than willing to say my daughter does not need to ride the bus, if that's gonna free up space.
One other thought, and I think that's a valuable discussion on how we're breaking this down, but we are down a bus barely getting by, then we would be permanently down a bus. And so then we're in this situation. And then if we had another bus go down, then we're like really on thin ice. Cause they've been managing, correct?
We've got two
That would be
extra
my
buses
worry,
and
is that
in the spring,
If we permanently,
with just two extra buses, there will be days that if we have a bus that has to go out of commission, we will not have enough buses to run where we need to go because we've got softball and baseball going, we've got
I'd say
we've got the track bus.
Your bigger problem is probably getting another bus driver. That's
Yeah.
your bigger problem.
Well, but that's, if we had a van,
You know,
You
more
bus
people can
driver.
drive the
Yeah.
vans.
More
That's,
it's a valid
it
point.
would, it
It's-
would
with
help
it.
fix the, yeah, I mean, we can get van drivers, is what Corinne said, but we can't get bus drivers. The other point that I asked is,
We can find a van driver easier, but
Right.
right now, even finding a
Like
van driver
you and
is
me.
tough.
is our current
Wrong.
bus, even in its state, worth something?
Right, we
And
talked about that.
I can ask Paul what he would
I would think
take
if
for
it
this.
was, I mean,
Yeah,
Are we
Well,
doing
it should
with the
be
same
worth
outfit?
something.
Is this a,
Yeah.
would it be a trade-in option?
Right,
Well, I
that's
can
what
see
we
if
asked
he
the
would
question,
take-
if the guy's willing to buy it, maybe
Take
he's
it and
got
trade
more
it.
that got another bus, they got the back end smashed,
Well,
they can
but-
swap it, sell it, you know, they got
The
one
lift-
deal, but.
That's about it. That's all.
But what is this statute on buses, how long can they be? Is
How
there a
old?
limit?
oh, old?
Yeah. To
That statute is only on vans,
That's
so,
all.
yeah.
And
I
mileage?
thought there, you told us in the past there was something
Yeah, I
on
thought that
buses.
the buses had to be retired after a number
Cause
of
you,
years. by
we
state.
had, I thought it was
Yeah.
12 years or something.
Oh, no, that's a van. The van is 12 years.
Other
The-
than the
the-
bus
the-
one, too.
The bus was,
Other than the bus one,
There was a bus thing too.
That's what, I just don't remember what it is.
It's more, I thought there was more than that on buses. It's the cars and the vans that I.
the cars and the vans
I
have a
was
limit.
wondering
It's just,
Okay.
with the buses, I know what Randy wanted.
well, we weren't planning on buying a bus this year.
We don't have the money to
The
buy buses.
plan was to
Right.
buy, when were you looking at buying the
There's
next bus?
some money that was, coming in that we were going to put toward paying back the fund balance, cause the fund balance has gone down, and so there's money coming in that we were gonna pay back the fund balance.
I don't remember that. I remember us just being very
Oh, we are
short,
short.
and without even paying anything back, we didn't have enough money. So to take 100,000, and we had a conversation about we can't afford a bus, and making sure that there was no budget for a bus.
Does this get spread out over so many years?
No, you read a check
No,
for it.
because
Boom, done, right on 1920?
the van, because the
That's
van,
it?
with the van, we could do that 5-year depreciation, because it was all special ed, and I know this is a handicap bus, but we can't guarantee that over half of the kids on that bus are going to be.
Can we get another van for free, like we did, like that special deal or whatever?
You do that in 5 years, so,
We have to wait another 5 years.
well, when we bought that last year, so it's 4 years now.
Who put this request in and were there any other, I mean,
I put the request in.
to what?
And to North Central, the reason I went with North Central, number one, they've got the state bid, which means that they will give us the guaranteed lowest price on a bus, and, in dealing with both North Central and Hogland, North Central has the Bluebird buses, and they have the Cummings engine, and those, compared to the bus drivers, feel that those are a better quality bus than what we get from Hoagland, but it would be, it's the state bid price anyway.
Well, what's your worst scenario, if you don't buy a bus?
We've got,
Have to buy a bus, or?
We had to get some way of
We have to
transporting
get
those
another
children.
transportation.
Exactly, so.
We have to
Yeah.
get something.
we have to get something, and as far as wondering if we will need this for any length of time, we have, someone in preschool, so we will be needing a bus with some type of handicap transportation for the next 14 years minimum.
What would a lease for 6 months of something just to get through the school year?
And see, I've asked about that, the only thing that anyone has available to lease right now has air brakes, and our bus drivers don't have, an endorsement for air brakes.
License for that.
I found out about this, was it yesterday morning?
License for that.
Yeah,
You got air brakes?
He can drive it.
should never volunteer that information.
Well, Pete we can do the lease, and Pete can do the bus. I've been trying to put this together since I found out yesterday morning, and so it's just,
Or what about, like you said, you were looking for, because there's gonna have to be interim contracted services till this bus comes in, so what about contracting for the rest of the year? I'm just,
Throwing out.
throwing it out. I'm just, we have to look at options. I got people on finance saying,
Something to get you through.
we're not really in a
I
situation
have
where this is an easy option that we can do, just.
No, it's $100,000.
It's the 100, we were already negative.
We're negative 62.
Yeah, and add
So-
another 100, and we're in negotiations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I know we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot, but we're at.
Yeah, so we're looking for any other
Yeah.
option.
I mean,
it's- the
I understand
long
where you're
term is
talking,
Get a bus,
the
but
van.
don't make a rush decision when it's
Right.
not in the budget,
Well,
so.
I think there's where Craig was already looking at her options to
Right.
get us through till February, so,
but getting through February was,
yeah, can you do that? Can you
And
get
I-
through February and then what is
I'm
that?
waiting for I've been playing phone tag with the Director of Transportation from SEMCAC to see if there's anything, because we have contracted them before when we needed, handicap busing for, adaptive learning. So we've contracted with them before, it was more economical than,
So there's some options out there? Or we don't
I'm
know
not
yet?
sure.
So you need.
So let me ask you one more question, is if we don't do this tonight, okay? And we wait till
If we wait,
next week, Wednesday, because everybody's off, we decide that day, I'm just throwing out dates again. We order it 2 weeks from now, is it gonna make a big difference on delivery?
it would add 2 weeks to the delivery, so instead of the end of February, beginning of March, it would be middle of March.
So, okay,
Because you're looking at, we get this new bus, you got 2.5 months where you're using it.
how much cheaper is the other bus company? And I understand that this is,
Hoagland would be, I was surprised that it came in under 100,000. It's the handicapped accessible bus, I was expecting to be,
I'm surprised because we paid 80 grand for one that wasn't handicapped
Right.
accessible, and here we got one that is, it's 86,098
but
at
do
the
they
end.
have one that they can get you earlier?
Hoagland has nothing.
Oh, you did check with them? You said you just went to North.
I called, I went online and did the online question to see what they had, when they didn't have anything, I did that, and they said nothing on the lot.
So
So,
it doesn't mean there's nothing they can't grab. What about if, could we delegate a decision to the finance committee? And you guys could meet in a week or whenever you get a little more information?
Let's talk about our options here. Do we want Corinne to come back with a transportation breakdown if we need to add additional bus? I mean, I know where we stand with, I can sense that, but do we want to see a breakdown if it's possible, like maybe a scenario where we're incorporating buses? The other question is, okay, we decide we need to buy a bus. Do we want to gamble on rebuilding old bus number 3? Or do we want to say, okay, wait, that's what's on the table here. Because we're down a bus, like it or not. So, we're gonna buy the new bus, we're gonna fix it. We wanna have a different strategy in transportation where we're buying a handicap accessible van and then, I guess, I'm sensing the fact that we do not wanna
We still need a bus.
we still need a bus. And then we need to decide, okay.
But we could get a bus that's probably right away that's not handicap accessible, right?
Probably
And-
get it, but we're gonna
And then we could maybe get a van that is handicap accessible, but yes, how would the driving
Right.
of
Yeah.
that
Yes.
all divvy up?
Then we're buying two vehicles. Our regular bus is gonna be about 80 grand. Okay, one without handicap accessible, because that's what we paid last time.
That's why we just go for the gusto.
So this is $10,000 more with tax and everything.
I wonder how much it would cost to, like she said, upgrade the van. You might be able to do both at the same time.
I don't know.
Should we request the finance committee, speaking as a member of that, meet with Corinne as far as this exact breakdown of how it's gonna hit us, or, you know, budget wise, as we are?
It's up to the
Are
board if
we
they
negative?
decide that they wanna
If they-
delegate the
if they wanna
responsibility to the finance
I'm
committee.
willing to delegate, I just think that there needs to be a group that needs a little more.
Well, I think what
information.
you're really pursuing here is that we're not gonna get a bus until middle of March anyway, okay? Then you only have a couple months of school left.
Right.
Okay, so I think what you need to do is let Corinne chase the avenue, it's extra work for her, but chase whatever avenue
Well, Todd
she
should be
can as
working
far
on
as
it.
leasing
Yeah.
a bus
Corinne.
from another
Todd should be
company.
working on this.
You know, lease from another
He's
company
transportation
till,
director, correct? So
till,
you put it on his plate to chase his people. I know he's got a lot of other crap on his plate, but
He's also AD.
I know,
Yes.
I know. I'm just,
No, you mentioned SEMCAC in terms of that, did you check like, first students, if they had one, and if they would, how much they would charge for doing the ride?
Not yet, because, in looking at first student, when we were looking at HVAC transportation, first student and ready were both like jaw-droppingly expensive.
well, why don't we do this? I mean, if everybody agrees to let the finance committee get together, have you or Todd, or a combination thereof, get more information, like we talked about, like Josh was saying, a van, cost for a van, we're gonna need a bus, one way or the other, which we can maybe get sooner. You know, if we do separate, obviously you say we can probably get somebody to drive the van easier,
But we'd still have to
but we
find a
still have to
body.
buy, yeah, so, again, it just should be on the list, make some calls to these people that you've already talked about tonight,
Mhm.
and see where we're at, and then, once you get some information together, we can have the finance committee meet, other than the 2nd of January. Maybe it's gonna be on the beach. We'll,
I can meet soon
we
if
can
you
meet.
want.
Okay.
How about,
Make a decision.
just, I'm guessing the answer, but funding out, if we get through the school year, obviously, and actually ordered over the summer, our funding options for next year, is there another avenue that
When?
we can fund this differently? As far as 1920 to 2021, cause we're more
Well, cause I talked to Gwen right away,
We can find more students.
to haul in that bus.
Yeah.
We could advertise a new bus.
and maybe with the finance, I can go through with
Yeah, we can
finance when
discuss
we
that.
have the meeting,
Okay.
the kind of funding options.
Why don't we do
Gwen and
that?
I already went
it's
through.
gonna be mighty tough for you to find a handicapped bus to lease. There's not-
I'm
But-
well
they're not-
aware.
But
yeah.
we're in that situation past Valentine's Day as it is, even if we all were on board to
Right.
sign off on it.
It's a problem that is faced by many organizations, so there have to be solutions out there. That doesn't mean they're inexpensive, but there have to be solutions, so.
Why don't we, like we said, table it, let the finance, if everybody agrees, the finance committee
So
get
when would
together.
finance committee
and
like
we
to get
approve
together?
it. Huh?
So,
When you have your information, you call.
okay.
You just
Mine-
need 72 hours to post it
Right,
and hold
just
it.
need 72 hours.
Could we hold it over like,
You guys just meet without me.
No, no.
Don't meet without me. I don't wanna call in.
Yeah, that's what I was
Don't
saying.
meet without
She's
me.
have
she
this-
won't be available.
I
Yeah.
know,
When you
I
leaving?
know.
Okay, are you guys gonna be around Monday or Tuesday?
I will be.
Yeah, well, not next Tuesday, that's Christmas Eve, but Monday,
Monday following school?
Monday the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get
No,
you.
please, meet without
If we
me.
do it right after school, like even
There
maybe,
is no school on Monday,
Whatever,
what time are you gonna be here?
I'm here all day.
now they come around all Monday. Yeah, Monday's fine.
Yeah.
Let's just do it Monday.
I would have to be after like 3 o'clock, or probably the soonest, cause you know.
Whatever works for him,
Three,
we'll make it
Thanks,
work.
Tom.
oh, 3:30 on Monday?
Or 3 even.
Okay,
We can try 3
Monday
out.
the 23rd?
Bother you with
Monday the
text. I'm
23rd?
running late,
We have to post that tomorrow.
yeah,
Tomorrow.
post that tomorrow.
Is that gonna be enough time?
Yeah.
Close to tomorrow, I got something.
No, cause tomorrow's Friday.
I think the weekends count.
No? Do they? Oh, they do?
Yeah, we used to always post and consider the weekend as part of the notice time.
You post on Monday for Thursday, that's fine.
Okay, so plan Monday, 3 o'clock.
Okay,
Yep.
I will get every answer I can by then.
Yeah.
Alright.
Get what you can together, and if anybody has any other questions or thoughts or ideas, get them to us before that.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, we got that done. Thank you. Important events, MSBA annual conference. We talked about that last time. Is there any more we need to add to that?
No, but the noise in here is driving me
Okay.
absolutely bonkers.
Committee meetings and committee updates. We had a negotiation meeting, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
We had a
Online school,
online
which
school,
she gave
we
me the
kinda, she already
presentation.
talked about that, so we're clear on that. Nothing else, right? Perfect.
We can talk about the value add, so.
Okay. Feedback, thank you, agenda things, ring and run donation.
Ring and Run donations, the Ring and Run group, came in for a donation to help defray some of the, old, food service debt. So we'll use it toward that.
What is Ring and Run?
That's, Bartel from Spring Grove's organization.
He does a fundraiser about this time every year, right?
Well, they did a race this summer, and they do things throughout the year.
Raise money to get
So
it.
what's the
school debt?
So if this is a donation, are we gonna have to have a resolution to accept this money from this organization designated for lunches like we did with the,
Crud. Yes,
yes.
okay,
So we'll have that on the
January
next
9th, I will
January
put
9th.
that on there. So it's a future agenda item, thank you very much.
Okay,
How much are we in debt on that whole luncheon thing?
we're,
15? 20?
Wow.
1,000?
But that's down.
Yeah, but didn't we already talk about having some collection agency? Is that still happening or no?
The Trans World.
Transworld Collections.
Transworld? Oh, okay. I know it was in discussion and, okay. I know it's becoming a
I
big
think we
issue.
should
No,
look at any
you're
of
right, it's a
these,
statewide issue. It's going on in every district.
NGOs that are willing to help out, that we should be funding.
I also
for
heard somebody
offsetting
that
that
said
debt.
that
Yeah.
was turned down for lunch. Our schools
No,
are
I-
doing that.
Okay,
Okay, the other thing, I had a woman call, she had done an interlibrary loan for this book. She, was amazed that she had found it. She's up here from Georgia because a relative or friend was getting a transplant at Mayo. And she, had never seen such a pristine copy of the 1901 Gideon Bible that even has the placard in the front to the principals and teachers. The Gideons came around, this is actually the 1929 version. So the Gideons came and put one of these in every classroom. One of our copies, now notice I said one of our copies, says room 204. We have 4 rather pristine copies of the Gideon Bible from 29. And she's wondering if we would allow her to buy one of our copies. She would replace with the Bible of our choice.
We can't. I don't think we can do that. We have to sell everything publicly. We can't make a private sale on something that's not our property, it's district.
Yeah, I was thinking, how many thousands
Well, I mean,
is it
I don't know how
worth?
we have to look at
It's,
that.
and I looked, there is no, I couldn't find another one online. It's not considered a rare Bible. It's not considered, she is a missionary.
can you just
From Georgia?
clarify that if this even is possible? I
It's
mean,
legally.
If it's legally possible to
I
gift
think
it.
you're absolutely right, because of when there's equipment or whatever they wanna give away, you can't even give it away. About all you can do is you can take it out to the dumpster, and you can let people know when you're taking it to the dumpster, and then you just set it there, and what happens, happens, That's about the only one, otherwise you can't turn around and just sell it.
We just check out what's legally.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't think, is anybody, okay, well, you let it.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else on that?
no, it's just,
Okay, so,
We could just put it up for bid.
We could,
Yeah, you can.
we could put it up for bids as long as it's an open,
Yeah.
and then anybody who wanted
So you
it
can
could
put
be,
it
as
on
long
our-
as it's been,
She's probably gonna be the only one to do it.
Yeah.
you could put it in the newsletter.
That's the idea.
Like maybe it could be something in the newsletter with a deadline
Yes,
date,
yes.
and,
Okay.
and then
Then
it's
you
been
cover it.
publicly,
then
Offer.
we've got
Okay.
ourselves, yeah, and let that
And maybe
person
there'll be
let me know.
multiple bids.
Let her know that.
Let
and
her know.
I will call her and let her know that we're putting it up for bid, if that's,
I think that's.
I just-
That's how we
I
legally
mean,
have to do it.
honestly though, I just don't want somebody to interpret the fact that our newsletter has a picture of the Gideon Bible and that we're selling it.
I don't
I
think.
don't, we need to think about what people are gonna think and,
Can we just list it as a property auction?
okay, I just,
To say book for sale.
book for sale.
That's a good,
It's like the banana on the wall with the duct tape.
Yeah.
so do you set a minimum or a starting then?
I just,
Then you'd have to come
No,
up.
you don't have to do it.
No, I know, but we'd want
Just
to,
have
or you
sealed
have an
bids.
No.
idea.
I have no idea what I have,
Just have, Ron said sealed bid, just take sealed bids.
yeah,
Because you can reject those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
You know,
okay,
we'll
Thank
take the $20,000.
yeah,
Thank you, Georgia.
exactly, okay, anything else on that? So, are we gonna go into closed to
Well,
negotiate?
I mean, I don't wanna bring up, but I do wanna bring up a future agenda item. I don't know
Okay.
whether anyone read on the MREA's last update, there was a report, a Minnesota report on rural education by ranking. And, Minnesota comes out really well on policy and funding, and really, and poorer than the median for college readiness. And, dual credit AP and students taking the ACT, which begged the question of Mimi's of why are we not supporting students taking the ACT? I would like to discuss this.
Oh.
I would like to discuss our district in the context of this report. I would just like some information on it.
So, and add it to the agenda for,
Sometime in the future, it's not an urgent thing,
Like
it's just
February
something
1st
that
meeting?
piqued my curiosity and I spent some time digging around in it, it's a
February.
interesting report,
So maybe February 1st,
whatever.
that work?
Okay.
Got it in?
We're probably gonna have to talk about culture diversity for offering it, because
Oh.
the teacher licensures are requiring that, so.
that we, for those teachers getting their licensure in 2020, we already, gave them a suggestion to go to Rochester, several of them did, for the cultural training that was held at, Southeast Service Co-op. And I've contacted the trainer at Southeast Service Co-op, and that trainer will be coming to Houston, the afternoon of our very first in-service back to school, so that everyone will have, even the support staff, will get the cultural literacy training, and so then everyone is good for 5 years. So, done, thank you.
Okay, good.
Any other thing? So do we have a motion to close the meeting for negotiations?
So moved and closed.
Okay, second, okay, discussion, all in
Did we have a
favor?
second?
Opposed, okay.
Who was the second?
He motioned, he seconded.
Josh
I'll
seconded.
my son is here.
Busy time.
Okay, we're going to close session, Josh.
Oh, you
Okay,
stay right
don't-
here?